I'd like to pick up from where the previous speaker left off there, and that is the question of, well, she brought up the rugby sevens and how this, and potted plants as well, but I've never actually been to the sevens, sadly enough. It's something I would like to fix that, but and I've never been to a Turbos match as a buckethead either. Anyway, moving on. The question was raised about the sevens, and I think that's a really good point, because at the sevens, the entertainment that goes on around the rugby is really more of the event than often than the rugby itself. Whereas I would hope that people who are heading along to the Rugby World Cup would want to make the rugby on the field itself the centre of entertainment, and perhaps the alcohol is more of a side issue. It's something that goes with the rugby rather than the other way around, with the rugby going alongside the alcohol. The Associate Minister is making some interjections there. Maybe she'll take a call and we can hear her views on this. But the point I'm getting at is something I was talking about a couple of weeks ago when we were debating this bill, about what sort of vessels we should have the beer and whatever else in. And I am absolutely of the view that a paper cup would be absolutely fine, because you're not there to focus on the drinking, you're not there to brand Heineken, you're there to watch the rugby. And maybe just for a couple of hours you could put up with drinking out of probably an appropriately sized paper cup when you're watching the rugby, and then we could overcome some of the issues that we saw at the weekend. Now, Mr. Quinn suggests that was because that was a rugby league crowd. I'm not quite so divisive. I'm a bit more inclusive. I think that it doesn't really matter what sport you're watching. That sort of mixture of alcohol and crowd mentality can make good people do things that the next day they kind of wake up and think, probably shouldn't have done that. Don't feel too flash about that. But in that environment, then cans, whether or not they brand Heineken, or bottles, can turn into missiles and they can do a lot of damage. And what the government is saying by saying no to paper cups is basically that corporate sponsorship comes ahead of public health and safety. That's really the sum total of that message. But I think that's something that would be good, given the incident over the weekend, which has occurred in the middle of the reading of this bill. I think the Minister should get up and talk about how those sorts of situations are going to be mitigated and minimised by the bill, or any amendments that the Minister might want to put up to the bill at this stage. And that leads me to the supplementary order paper in my name. And that is an amendment to subpart 3 that would require the signage in a licensed venue to carry information about the transportation options that are available nearby the premises for patrons, to encourage them to choose safe transportation. Because I was listening to the radio this morning and I heard a Mount Albert resident, someone who lives close to Eden Park, complaining about not only what happened in Eden Park, but then what happened when everybody poured out and poured across their lawn and did things on their lawn that probably were more appropriate for a public toilet, and that upset that resident, and they felt that things should be put in place to ensure that doesn't happen. Now, if we have information in public venues about transportation options that are available, people then might not be walking blind drunk along the streets, annoying the local residents, getting into trouble themselves, perhaps doing something that they won't be so proud of the next morning. They could get themselves into a cab, they could get dial a driver, they could get onto a shuttle, whatever options are available, and take that option. The train, the member opposite mentions the train, a good option. I'd be very pleased if more people took the train in Auckland, getting from Eden Park back to home or back into the CBD. That would be fantastic. Now, what my supplementary order paper suggests is that information should be a requirement for venues to have available for patrons in there, because all the other stuff is kind of there. The water, the free water, that's a requirement under this bill. That is a fantastic measure. The food that is available, the low alcohol drinks, those things are right there in front of those patrons, and they can see them, they can see the options that are available to them. Transportation is not right in front of them. It's not an option which is immediately obvious and available to them. So to require, just to take the opportunity, seen as a sign has to be in there anyway, why not add this to the sign to improve public health and safety? Seen as we've sort of parked health and safety for Heineken when it comes to the vessels inside the parks, when we're outside, maybe we could bring this little measure in here just to improve public health and safety Chair. Mr. Chair.